This episode of the Esoteric Order of Roleplayers is brought to you by the generosity of our backers on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/esotericrp to find out how you can become a backer too. We create and broadcast these episodes live on native lands. We acknowledge these are unceded lands, with diverse communities maintaining connections to these places, and recognize their ancestors, their elders both past and present, and future generations. Learn more by visiting the Native American Rights Fund website at narf.org. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of me, David Larkins, and I'm going where I've never gone before. Okie dokie. We are back. We are on the bridge. Time for some more Captain's Log. I have done my due diligence. I have done what needed to be done, which was more prep. Oh, yeah. Like I said last time, I'm a little... I guess surprised. Well, I'm shocked and not shocked by the amount of prep I've had to put in to do a solo game. Again, I kind of felt like getting into this book in particular that a lot of that would sort of be taken care of for me, but that was probably just wishful thinking. But again, it does seem like it's being pitched at folks who are new to the setting as well. So who knows? Who knows? This is probably just my own nerdy compulsion to, do these canonical deep dives. I can't just make stuff up off the cuff unless I feel like we're sort of operating in a, more freeform milieu for that particular mission. But when it comes to something like the Borg, like one of the most iconic Star Trek antagonists, I kind of feel like I have to, do some background reading. So I acquired a PDF of the Delta Quadrant source book, and I dove in, and yes, it gave me a lot of food for thought. It gave me a lot to think about. I learned a bit more about Borg spheres. I was pleased to note that I'm kind of using the sphere correctly in that they often do go off on their own to sort of scout out around the margins of Borg space. So that's cool. And I even ran across a fun little adventure hook, I guess you could say. So I'm going to be doing a couple retcons here right at the top of the session in the grand tradition of not just Star Trek, but sort of geek media in general. I didn't mean what I said last time. It's actually different, you see. So the first retcon is that I think that deep space navigational system test was occurring in a part of deep space in the Beta Quadrant called the Hollow. So called because there's just not a lot of bright celestial bodies in that section of space. It's a very vast, pretty empty section of space. There's not a lot of activity there, which makes it kind of a favorite haunt for less reputable folks, you might say, who want to get the heat off of them, and I feel like would sort of it would behoove the Federation to maybe throw some probes out there, or otherwise monitor it a little bit more closely. The problem is that the Hollow is also filled with a bunch of gravitational and subspace anomalies. Oh, oh, is that a fact? Yes, indeed it is. And so this new navigational system was designed to sort of navigate around those anomalies. So it's kind of like, when they were developing radar for ships, early on in the 30s or so, and it was being used to like kind of map out the ocean floor. And they were like, that's curious. There's a mountain range going down the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I wonder why that could be. So kind of a similar concept there, I think. And since this was the Delta Quadrant book and it was talking about story hooks for the Borg, it actually said that the Hollow is the site of one of the few sort of like naturally occurring transwarp corridor outlets. Now, I think the book was kind of implying that the Hollow was more on the edge of Borg space rather than Federation space, but who cares? This is a situation where I'm like, I don't care if there's a canonical map that shows the Hollow in Borg space. No. In my world, it's on the edge of Federation space, near the Romulan Star Empire, in the Beta Quadrant. Done and dusted. And it did say that the Borg keep a watch on that transwarp corridor because it's naturally occurring. They obviously don't want, because it opens up in a very vast, empty part of space where you don't get a lot of starships generally. The Borg aren't too concerned about that, but they do sort of keep guard on it. So we could even maybe say that this sphere was on guard duty when Kyushu encountered it, and they went, gotta go, and zipped off down the corridor and took a couple left turns. I kind of view transwarp corridors, actually, now that I think about it, like the time streams in the Bill and Ted movies, where there's like, you're just kind of, going along through this sort of, CG rendered, sort of telephone or telecommunications bundle, is what it kind of looks like, right? But that there's like sort of off ramps and branches and things that you can navigate through if you know what you're doing. So the sphere was probably trying to lose Kyushu in the corridor, but Kyushu, kind of more through luck than anything else, sort of popped out on the same outlet that the sphere did. So now the sphere is currently orbiting this planet, this ocean planet, as established. This is the second retcon, though, because one thing I did learn from reading the Delta Quadrant book is that the spheres are pretty much scout ships. They can engage in assimilation activities if need be. They're not big enough to do the what do you call it? Like the like consuming a planet, like kind of. So for those who don't know, like the Borg will either ignore a planet if it doesn't have anything worthwhile going on, or they will try to assimilate anything that's interesting going on the planet, technology-wise, in terms of the inhabitants, all of the above, etc., etc. Or they will consume the planet, meaning they just basically tear whole chunks out of the surface of the planet and like beam it up into their cubes, right, and break it down for nutrients, So this is how they get a lot of their raw materials, and they basically just strip mine entire planets, So that all being said, I don't think the crew of the sphere is necessarily going to be down on the surface of the planet, even though we rolled for that last time, or at least not the whole crew. Maybe they sent a few observers down to check things out, and their focus is currently on that because they're like, hello, there's a planet here, let's check it out. But their focus is also going to be drawn by the arrival of Kyushu, which just scanned them, as we know. So that would certainly have grabbed their attention, even if they hadn't otherwise noted the ship. Now, the other thing I was thinking about, and this is not, we're now out of the realm of retcons. The other thing I was thinking about was, the way the Borg work. The instant that one of their vessels or even one of their drones encounters something new, it goes whoop right up into the hive mind, and suddenly everyone knows about it. The whole Borg knows about it. Everyone's talking about it. And again, I don't want to violate canon too grossly here. And I think it's pretty well established that the Enterprise encountering the Borg cube in TNG was sort of the first time that the Borg certainly encountered a Federation starship. I know there's some stuff from Voyager too in terms of earlier encounters with humanity, but as far as encountering a Federation starship, canonically the Enterprise is the first, as far as I understand it. And I don't want to necessarily violate that. So I'm thinking that, so we left off last time with me rolling a pretty cool advantage, in addition to shaking off our overworked complication. But I rolled a pretty cool advantage, which was, that we learned something about the enemy that's going to give us an advantage. And so I'm thinking what that may be, even though we as characters do not know anything about the Borg. Perhaps we as players can learn something useful. And I'm thinking that is that the sphere has become cut off from the collective. So, it's possible that it's just experiencing some minor technical difficulties. It's possible that something happened going through that transwarp corridor that messed it up. There was some minor malfunction while it was in the transwarp corridor that then caused some kind of cascade failure that has cut it off. So sort of the equivalent of, getting knocked off line, because a truck plows into a telephone pole 3 miles away or something, So, and no doubt that they are, if that's the case, they're working on getting reconnected as we speak. So the first thing I'm going to roll for is the sphere cut off, and I'm going to say that since that was an advantage, we're going to say it's highly probable on the old matrix, and just squeaked that. Rolled a 17, needing an 18 or less. Okay, so yes, the sphere is cut off, so that's very good. That ties in very nicely with canon. If we can get away here, without too much information being gathered, or even maybe leading the sphere into its own demise, its own doom. Okay. Here's the other thing. Nothing is preordained here, right? So it is entirely possible that we are exploring an alternate universe, a mirror universe, if you will, in which Kyushu does not get blown up at the Battle of Wolf 359, but rather gets fully assimilated by the Borg somewhere in the Delta Quadrant. In, let's see, what year are we in? I keep forgetting what year we're in. In the year, 2353. So, hey, it's possible. We'll see. That's why we play. We play to find out what happens, as certain other games are fond of saying. So, okay. Now, another thing I learned from reading the Borg chapters in the Delta Quadrant source book is that, as I indicated before, the Borg don't assimilate just for assimilation's sake, despite their famous catchphrase. If they encounter a species, or even, a planet with, life on it, and they're not looking to consume the planet, and there's nothing on the planet that's worth them assimilating, they'll just note it, they'll log it, they'll add it to their database and go on their merry little way. And actually, there was a really rather chilling whole bit, which I'm sure has been explored in some other Star Trek media, but would make a very interesting, not necessarily a Star Trek Adventures campaign, But if you really wanted to like surprise your players, you know, you could set it up as like a you know, using a different system like GURPS or basic role playing or really anything that has like, you know, I don't know. I mean, it could be any kind of like relatively advanced, you know, like a cyberpunk setting, let's say, or even a setting that has like some like unique, like a steampunk setting, or, you know, something with like some unique tech in it. And all you do is you just kind of casually seed the fact that there's some old legends, some old like apocalyptic legends about like the Black Sun or the dark ones or something, you know, who will one day return and you know, and take everyone up into the sky or you know, whatever, right? You know, just some like come up with something a little bit you know, Borg-like, but don't be too obvious about it, right? None of the people at your table are aware of what's going on. And but, you know, ideally you're running this for some Trekkies, right? And then, you know, you run, you know, you just get into it. You pitch it as like, oh yeah, you know, guys, I just wanted to run kind of a fun, you know, steampunk game, you know, or whatever, you know, clock punk, whatever punk, you know. And you run, you know, 3 or 4 sessions of it, let everyone kind of get comfortable, get into their characters, establish the world, you know. Maybe you go a little longer, you do a half dozen sessions, right? And then suddenly, the sky is full of a bunch of gigantic cubes. And all the Trekkies at the table go, oh my god! So everyone's heads collectively explode. Because that happens. The Borg will come back, you know, hundreds or thousands of years later and be like, okay, and see, now you guys want to develop some technology that we like, that we want to take, you know, or like you're interesting enough, you know, you have enough of an advanced, you know, understanding of whatever that's desirable to the Borg, that we want to assimilate you guys. And it said, like, you know, in some cases where there are legends from that prior Borg visitation, sometimes like the response of the planet's population are like, yes, our gods have returned to take us up into the sky, oh sky lords, you know. And then in other ones it's like, oh no, our legend said these were like sky demons, and there's no way in hell we're going down without a fight, you know. So, and of course, you know, if you're running that game, you'd have to complicate it, right? You'd have to have both perspectives going on at the same time. Anyways, that's a whole other game. Let's get back to this one. So, in this case, though, as I mentioned last time, I rolled up the inhabitants of Omicron 10, and they are sentient, flying, radial creatures, so like probably look like flying jellyfish. They live on an ocean planet, so obviously they started out in the ocean, and they evolved some way of flotation, you know, some gas, you know, helium gas sacs or something that keep them floating above the surface. They're Bronze or Iron Age technology. Their government structure tends to be oligarchical and tends towards federations of oligarchies. So it's almost like a Bronze Age Italian Renaissance situation, or well, actually not even Renaissance, right? I mean, if we just think of Bronze Age Italy with its various, you know, it had the Greek colonies and the Etruscans and the Romans and the, you know, Central Italian tribes, you know, maybe something a little like that, right? Except they're flying jellyfish and it's a water world. This is why we love sci-fi. So, just picturing like a TOS thing where, you know, Kirk and the crew beam down and it's just a bunch of like jellyfish wearing togas, you know. Oh, this is the one where they go to the Roman planet, but they're all jellyfish. So, anyway, I don't think any of that really screams the Borg wants what these guys got. You know, so ergo my retcon of like, well, maybe they've just got some observers down on the surface of the planet who are sort of checking things out. So, however, the book did say that sometimes Borg will make an exception if they discover that, the species on this planet, the sentient species on this planet, or some other life on this planet, has a biological trait that the Borg wants to assimilate into its own, processes. The Borg are mostly like a cybernetic species. They're not really like, biotech as far as I can tell. I mean, they use nanites, nanobots. But that, that doesn't mean they couldn't take some cellular structure or other like biological component from a species, replicate it, and just have that become part of their standard assimilation protocol, So, who knows, So, anyway, highly unlikely, I would say. So I'm going to roll for it anyway because, we'll just find out. But, in this case, the answer is no. Okay. So our friends, our jellyfish friends do not have to worry about assimilation, thankfully. I actually was kind of having nightmarish visions of jellyfish drones, Borg drones, Okay. So we've determined the sphere is cut off. I wrote down a bunch of questions. Is the cube actually, or is the sphere rather, actually damaged? I'm going to say 50-50 on that one. And when I say damaged, I mean damaged. Like, are its shields compromised? Is its tractor beam down? That kind of thing. We know it's cut off. But yeah, it does also have some damage to it. And I think probably that's honestly what Kyushu's scan would have revealed. Like this vessel's power core is compromised or whatever, Okay, so is it going to try and consume? Now, a sphere is not as equipped for consumption of a planet as a cube is. However, it can still take chunks out of the planet, pull it up, and start breaking it down into base components in order to help repair the vessel. So is it going to try and consume? Is it going to try and take some chunks out of this planet? We'll say that's probable. And yes, that's a yes. Okay, so rather than having their focus be on, we're going to beam our crew down to start assimilating, their focus is on, we need to just tear out some natural resources from this beautiful planet, which, if you recall, is not only in a strategic location, i.e. at the far end of a transwarp corridor, but is a planet of natural wonders as well. So the Borg just being full-on villains here, coming in, wrecking shit like the bad guy from like a 90s, kids movie with environmental themes. He's going to dump toxic waste in Yosemite Park or something, kind of the equivalent. Okay, so let's see. The only other question then that I had is so the sphere is focused on the planet, but only insofar as it needs to grab some resources to start repairing itself. So in the meantime, is it going to attempt to beam any drones over onto Kyushu? So the Delta Quadrant book had some nice guidelines for what the Borg does when it initially encounters something new. And it's not just like a immediate attack protocol, which certainly a sphere would be anyway. So I'm going to say that right now, because they're so focused on repairing the ship, it's somewhat improbable that they're going to send anyone over. And that's a no. Okay. So Kyushu is safe for now. Thank God. Jeez. However, as I indicated, our intrepid crew have no idea. They're just as the Borg are just as novel to them as they are to the Borg, and so they really have no clue what they are messing with here. Now, that being said, Captain Galvin is a stoic type. He's very cautious. He's very methodical. Is he going to attempt to bring the Borg up on hailing frequencies? I will say that is that somewhat improbable? Let's see. I would say it's somewhat improbable, and yet I still got a yes. Okay. All right. He may live to regret this. Okay. So, or be assimilated to regret this. All right. So, yes, we're going to try to bring a Borg ship up on hailing frequencies. Sure, why not? So we'll roll comms plus command. Sure, sounds reasonable. And I got the one success that I needed. That's fine. No momentum generated, though, sadly. Okay. So, so Wyn brings, manages, or, would it be Wyn? I guess so, sure. If we recall, Wyn is at the navigation helm currently, and then we've got our plucky young ensign Kehoe, who actually has the con, and so Wyn brings up the Borg on hailing frequencies. All right. Well, so I think, everyone's kind of, Captain Galvin assumes his position between the two helm stations, and, clasps his hands behind his back and looks, very, very authoritative there, and says, "This is USS Kyushu, hailing unknown vessel. Please identify yourselves." And, we get a bunch of the view screen goes from black to static, and then it swiftly resolves, and we see, this interior of this Borg sphere. Now, the spheres are, they're almost like a Dyson sphere in the sense that, like, all of the kind of action happens around the surface circumference of the sphere, and that the interior of the sphere is actually empty except for its sort of engine and warp core and all that stuff. So it's not quite the endless vista back into the interior that you would get with like a cube, right? So I'm picturing it more like almost like the interior of like a German submarine from World War II, Das Boot, like just very sort of like cramped and like dark, like lots of dark metal pipes, and the only light and color is coming from some blinking circuit boards, readouts, etc. And we've got a Borg drone looking back at the crew of the Kyushu, and everyone gasps in shock at this, strange and diabolical looking figure with its chalky white skin and, bionic implants sticking out of, major arteries and organs, and, just looking very inhuman. And of course, we get a classic moment here.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.
All right. So I'm going to mark that scene a fail because really the smart move would have just been to be like, yeah, look at that thing. That is freaky. All right, let's get out of here. Rather than like, hello, how are you? We're the Federation. Who are you? Now, Federation does that all the time, but that doesn't mean it's not a fail, in my opinion. All right, so, and that would, of course, be our commercial break there anyway, as everyone's looking at each other. And, okay, so we come back from commercial. Now, of course, I've been living for this moment, because Wyn has had a value from character creation. Resistance is never futile, so I am very curious to see if maybe we can challenge that value in this mission. But perhaps not quite yet, because let's see. Okay, so the next thing that the Borg would attempt to do would be to teleport some of their drones over to the Kyushu. Now, there's a couple things I think that we need to establish before then. First of all, is Captain Galvin going to order shields up? I'd say that's highly probable. That was a hostile act, and yes. So Galvin barks to Kerensky, shields up. And Kerensky, hits leans over and says, all crew, red alert. So we get the red lights coming up and the little light banks around the bridge, and but Captain Galvin, unbothered, unflustered, takes a couple steps forward and says, "We mean you no harm, and do not wish to engage in hostilities. However, based on your threatening words, I have had no choice but to order my shields up. Just know that we will not fire on you unless we are fired upon first." So I think we'll give Galvin an opportunity here. Comms plus command again, just to see what impression that makes on our little Borg spheroids. Cool. So I got a success with a momentum. All right. How shall we do that? I can, of course, hold on to it for a reroll. However, as I once again look for the page, I ran across a video on YouTube this past week where it was like how I mark up my captain's logbook, and the thumbnail, like the guy is holding up the book, and there's like this peacock's tail of different colored post-it notes, like literally around like the top side and bottom of the book. And I was like, I don't know about that. And then I was even more surprised to see it was the lead developer of the book. So I don't know. I think the book could have benefited from a slightly higher production value in terms of like maybe having color-coded sections, so that you wouldn't have to go through with your post-it notes like that. Although it was very clever. He used the the three colors of Federation uniforms. So he had gold, red, and blue, for the different departments. I kind of wish they'd been able to do that with the printing. It's a is it two color? Yeah, it's 2-color. No, 3-color. They've got black text with some blue headers and then some gold like table headers. But yeah, unfortunately they couldn't do. Oh yeah, it is full color because they have full color illustrations. Well, gosh, why didn't they do the frickin'? All right, never mind. Anyway, the book's a little hard to navigate, as I won't flog that, but yeah. Anyway, all right, so we can hold on to the momentum for a reroll. I can hold on to the momentum in case I generate a threat later, in which case I can immediately spend the momentum to cancel out the threat. Or I can add an advantage or new story element. So what I'm tempted to do here is spend the momentum to say, the Borg are going to hesitate, because the sort of next move I was going to have them do was, try to drain Kyushu's shields so that they could then teleport over. But I think, taking into account the fact that they're still repairing their ship, they know that they're actually at a disadvantage. This is something our crew doesn't know, but they know that. So they're like, oh snap, we have encountered an advanced civilization that has, advanced warships. They also haven't had a chance yet to find out that Kyushu is really just a survey ship. It's not a warship, but they don't know that. So it's a little bit of a poker game here, a little bit of a bluff counter bluff kind of situation going on. So I'm going to spend the momentum to generate a new story element, which is that the crew, the drones aboard the Borg Sphere, also they're out of connection with the collective as well. So they will hesitate. So we'll mark that as a success. All right, so we're coming up on the last scene of this act. And again, I talked about this a little bit last time. The swiftness with which we gallop through these missions, I guess that's just kind of up to me to sort of make a judgment call. It's like, was that a scene, or was that just a threat, a task roll, or was it both? I mean, I feel like we're kind of in the same scene, like Act 2 is kind of one big extended scene, Okay, so I think, I think for the last scene though, they aren't going to try and drain the shields, but they are going to start running scans on Kyushu. And of course, as we know, the thing with the Borg is the more you can prevent them from getting information about you, the better. I mean, I found that, we might get into their protocol for what they do in terms of trying to sort of provoke information gathering opportunities, so I won't get into it right now because it might come up later in the mission, but pretty fascinating stuff if you're familiar with it. You can nod your head in agreement right now as I take a sip of water. Ah, yes, quite fascinating. All right, so I think for this last scene of this act, though, we'll give Wyn something to do. So the Borg ship is going to start trying to scan Kyushu and gather as much information. So Wyn sees this coming up and says, "Captain, they're attempting to scan our ship." And of course, Galvin immediately barks back, "Jam that signal!" So here we go. Let's give Wyn... What do we have here? So we'll use the ship's sensor. Yes. And also its own engineering. Would it be engineering or science? Well, they're the same value. So sensors and engineering, science, whatever. So that is a 14 or less. Let's go. All right. Hey. So 2 successes mean I have generated another momentum die, and I am keeping an eye out to see if any of these are coming up, as triggering a ship's talent or a focus. For example, high resolution sensors on Kyushu, but I believe I have to roll equal to or less than the ship's scale of 4, and I just rolled a 5 on one of those dice, and the other was a 13. So it also has automated defenses, which could come in very handy, and an improved impulse drive, which could also come in handy in terms of trying to get the hell out of here, get away from this planet's gravity well so we can punch into warp and GTFO. So these are good things to remember. And then, of course, Wyn has Helm Ops as a focus. Yes, very good. Stellar Cartography. Okay, all good things. Very good things. Okay. All right. So we have successfully jammed their sensor sweep and created a momentum point. I will hold on to that one for right now. because I feel like we might need it. Okay, so that is the end of Act 2. So far, we are running in the black as far as success versus fail. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 successes versus 3 fails. So if I fail all 5 of Act 3's scenes, then it will be a loss. Although a close, a minor loss, right? We'll find out here. We'll find out. All right. So once again, I don't really feel the need for a third act supplemental, so we'll just go right on into the third act. So I think for the third act, actually, you know what? I might spend that momentum die, actually. Yeah, I'm going to spend that momentum now that I think about it. So I think in the course of jamming the scan, Wyn also picked up the information that this Borg vessel, this alien sphere, appears to be transporting massive amounts of matter directly from the surface of the planet below. And actually, before we even get into this scene, I'm going to give Wyn another sensor sweep. Okay, just one success on that one. So yeah, a quick sensor sweep of the planet shows that there is life on that planet, and furthermore, civilized life. And the Borg are, tearing huge chunks out of this planetary surface. Now, this is something that I don't think Federation ships are even capable of doing, is my understanding. But certainly if they are, this is not something the Federation does, as a general rule of thumb. So I think, yeah, Wyn reports that to the captain, who then, so we're, he's still kind of facing down this drone, and so let's see here. What are we gonna do? I mean, we could threaten violence. We could say, like, if you don't stop doing that right away, we're gonna open up on you. But Galvin already kind of gave his word. He said, we're not gonna fire on you unless fired upon first, and that's kind of standard Federation policy, really. So I think yet again, we'll just say it's highly improbable that he'll order that. Okay, so yeah, instead, he's going to continue to try and like sort of intimidate the Borg drone, and he'll say, so Wyn reports, Captain, our sensors show that the alien vessel is transporting massive volumes of material off that planet's surface. It's just, it almost seems like it's scooping whole islands off of these archipelago chains here up near the poles. And Galvin goes, alien vessel, is this true? What is the purpose of this operation? You must cease this immediately. For the love of God. All right, so we're going to try another, comms plus command roll. Just see what happens there. Almost generated a threat. That was a 19. We got one success. So, I think with that single success, like, the Borg are very arrogant. They're very much like, we don't need to be coy with you. We don't need to be cagey. So I think the drone just says, we are merely transporting raw materials aboard our craft to effect repairs. Once our repairs are effected, we will begin assimilating your craft. Resistance is futile. So we've got a little bit of a threat there. We've got a little bit of a countdown clock going on, And So I think it's time for another decision point here. This is a tough one. This is what you call a moral dilemma, right? Because we've got this alien craft who's like, strip mining this planetary surface where we know there's life, we know there's advanced life, so to speak, not warp capable, but advanced life, civilized life. This alien craft is, wrecking that, essentially. So there would be kind of a desire to stop that, to do something to stop that. Especially after the last mission where we kind of left those psionic beings high and dry on that planet. I don't know if Galvin's really the sort of morally dubious guy. I feel like this is a real character defining moment for our captain here, because we can kind of forgive him from the last mission because those things were like trying to hijack his crew's brains, so that's not cool. You can kind of understand why he didn't want to mess around with that. But in this case, because the other option then is like we're facing an alien craft that's 600 meters across, so it's much vaster than our own craft. It's almost it's like 2/3 of a kilometer across, huge ship. Although, still dwarfed by a Borg cube, but, we haven't seen that yet. We don't know that, as far as we know, this is much like how they don't understand the Kyushu is kind of a little shrimpy ship. We don't understand, so too is theirs, So, so it's an unknown craft with unknown capabilities, other than its demonstrated capacity for, first of all, traveling through a heretofore unknown part of space-time, and then scooping big chunks out of a planet surface like it's a, bored teenager working at a Baskin Robbins after school, So, how's that for a metaphor? So the impulse, no pun intended, the impulse to go to impulse drive and get the hell out of there would be a powerful one. And certainly I'm sure there are many folks on the bridge even now who are kind of thinking like, gosh, I sure hope the captain orders us to run away. Or maybe not. These are stalwart Starfleet officers, They knew what they signed up for when they went to the academy. But nevertheless, Captain Galvin's got a decision to make. So, normally I would say it's highly improbable that he would run away. However, after the events of the last mission, I'm going to bump it down to merely improbable. So if I roll a 5 or less, I believe, if I can flip back to my probability matrix here. Yes, a 5 or less, Galvin is going to turn tail and run. Let's find out. No, he's going to stick it out. God damn it. Starfleet is made of sterner stuff than that. All right, our iron-backed captain. Not going to back down in the face of this kind of reckless disregard for sentient life. And, or just life in general. I mean, come on. And so he's going to, his face flushing a bit, his nostrils flaring, he's going to end communication with the Borg vessel. And he's going to look at Wyn, and he's going to look at Kerensky and Kreesar, our good old away team, yet again. Let's see, and I think we'll just we'll call up some other security as well, right? Maybe three other security team, and he turns to Kerensky and he says. We can't let them get away with this. Assemble in transporter room for an immediate away mission. Okay. So we'll definitely call that one a success because Galvin did the right thing. You know, he didn't run away. We're gonna fight this one out. So, so our next scene, we're in the transporter room, and you know, we've got our phasers. In fact, you know, maybe we've got some of those you know, big fuck off phasers. You know, the ones that look like rifles, right? I think that's still TNG era. They got those. And, yeah, we're ready to wreck some shit, you know. So Galvin is explaining the mission briefing. He says, it is in our best interest to, cripple that ship's capacity for, transporting raw materials on board, both on behalf of the, residents of the planet below, to say nothing of the fact that once that ship comes back online, I have a distinct feeling that we're not going to be having a very nice day. It won't be a very Merry Christmas for any of us. So, yeah, I doubt they still celebrate Christmas in the atheistic utopia of the secular Star Trek universe, but, you know, they know what Christmas is. We know what Saturnalia is. Come on. Anyway, all right, so now, of course, the problem there is that we don't know a whole lot about what's going on aboard that vessel. We did get some scanning completed on the vessel, so we have some idea. We could say we kind of have a lock on the location of where that drone was, sort of broadcasting from, so to speak, which we might assume reasonably is the bridge. So Galvin is looking each of us directly in the eye, and he says, your mission objectives are clear. Get aboard, disable the bridge crew, shut down that transporter beam if possible, and get out. Don't linger. Don't go wandering off. We're just trying to cripple this ship as much as possible before we get out of here. All right. So, okay. So, with that in mind, we will have our 6 away team members, you know, all grim-faced and ready to, you know, see what fate has in store for them. Get up onto the transporter deck, and away we go. So I'm going to roll for our transport engineer, chief transporter, our Miles O'Brien. He's going to roll, and Miles O'Keefe in this case. He's going to roll, and we'll see how precisely he can pinpoint us onto this vessel. So again, you know, just as a reminder, that advantage that we generated last session was that the sphere was sufficiently crippled that we can assume that the Borg's usual sort of countermeasures for like scattering attempted transporters and whatnot is, you know, just it's offline. It's not going to work. So we'll just say it's difficulty 1. And thank God we did. So I got 1 success, but also thankfully no threat. Okay, no other talents or anything triggered there. Okay. All right, so off we go. Cue transporter sound. As the crew rematerializes, not so much on board, not so much on the bridge, because I'm 90% sure that Borg vessels do not have a bridge per se, because they don't need one, right? But close by to where that initial broadcast went out. Now, of course, what our away team immediately realizes is, yeah, we're just somewhere inside the bowels of this ship. There is no bridge. And in fact, we're just, you know, we see some of these, you know, freaky deaky cyber mummies, but they're like, you know, standing inside these little, like, you know, glass tubes, these little glass sarcophagi. So, eyes closed, seemingly dormant. So there's really no clue or concept as to like what needs to be done. And also for folks who don't know, like Borg drones aren't necessarily going to even care if you're on board their ship as long as you're not doing anything rude. So they just won't assess you as a threat, and they'll just continue to go about their sort of programmed duties. So plus, this is the first time the Borg is encountering Starfleet, and so they probably wouldn't even anticipate that this would have been a move. That Starfleet would care enough to try to prevent the Borg from, transporting all this material. So I think what we'll do here, I'm once again going to take advantage of the combat system for a kind of extended action. Okay, so what we're going to do the standard sort of 3-box system, and it's a race against time, because we're trying to shut down this giant scooper, essentially, before they get enough raw material to start, they're already affecting repairs as we speak, but, they need enough raw material to, like, finish doing all their repairs, and we're trying to shut it down before it gets to that point. And basically we're just going to be kind of, doing the sort of commando raid style, dashing around along gantries and, catwalks and whatnot, down here, this way, and so forth. Looking around for anything that looks like it might be controlling the transporter, and understanding this is a completely alien vessel. So I'm going to make it a little hard for myself. I'm going to say, so it's 3 boxes for us, 3 boxes for them. The first side to fill in 3 boxes, to do 3 hits essentially, achieves their objective. So if the Borg gets 3 hits first, they have transported aboard enough material from this jellyfish planet that their repairs will be imminently complete. And if we get 3 hits first, we find some sort of, something that looks enough like a, transporter hub that we can, like, start messing with it. Now, we'll still need to roll to disable it, but, we can but try. And so, since this is an alien vessel with a lot of alien tech on it, I'm going to say that my difficulties are going to be at 2, just across the board here. So, whereas the Borg is just going to need a, regular difficulty of 1. So, let's see what we can do. Because, sometimes winning at great odds just makes it all the sweeter. Okay, so, for the Borg vessel, now here's where I have to figure out what the heck is going on, right? Because, let's see. All right, let me pause really quick and look up the Borg Sphere in the Delta Quadrant book. All right, well, annoyingly enough, the section on Borg spacecraft had a Borg cube, a Borg diamond, and a Borg probe ship, but not a sphere. So I looked at I think the sphere would be closer to the cube than the probe ship. So just kind of ballparking it there. I think it's a structure plus engineering roll. So that's going to be a 17 or less. All right. And meanwhile, I think for Wyn, since Wyn's our POV character, we're going to hinge our success on her success, and we'll go off of reason plus engineering. Okay, so that's a 13 or less, which is not bad, but not a Yeah, not a 17 or less. All right, so oh, wait a minute. I am totally falling back into old RPG habits. So silly. I don't need the Borg ship stats. Yeah. I just need Wyn's stats. So that's that's a 13 or less, but a difficulty 2. Okay, well, that was silly of me. All right, here we go. Saved my own ass, though, I'll tell you. Okay, look at that. 2 successes right off the bat, including potential focus activation, or not a focus activation, but I rolled a 3, and my engineering is a 3. I forget what they call that. Okay, so we've got a momentum, and then we've got the other thing, the Schmendrick. Let's see here. One moment. Okay, that is the focus. So it says, if a character has a focus that applies to the current task, and they roll a number equal to or less than their discipline rank, they immediately create an advantage or roll on the advantage table. Alright, well, unfortunately, I don't have one that applies here. I don't have any, like ship engineering or, sort of teleport engineering related focuses, sadly enough. So, but I did, like I say, generate a momentum spend. So I think we will cash that in to add 1 hit. All right, cool beans. Okay, here we go. Oh, wait a minute. It just occurred to me. Do I generate momentum on a difficulty 2 roll? Because if by definition I need 2 successes... let's see. Hold on a second. Okay. Let's see here. You always begin a new mission with that. Alright. Okay, well, I mean, it does say here, your roll succeeds if you roll equal to or under your target number on 1 or more dice. However, if both d20s roll under your target number, you not only succeeded, but gained momentum. Yeah. Well. I don't know. I mean, I guess, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. We'll go rules as written. If I were the GM, I'd be an asshole, and I would say, you don't generate momentum on a difficulty 2 roll, but since I'm also the player, I'll give myself a little bit of slack here. Okay, here we go. I mean, it's going to be hard enough as it is, right? 13 or less. Ooh, that die almost jumped out. Oh, that is a straight fail. Just a straight up fail. Okay, but fortunately no threat was generated. I rolled a 19. But yeah. Okay. Here we go. A 4 and a 17, so that is still counts as a fail. Uh-oh. 2 to 2. Oh, crap. See, here I thought I was going too easy on myself. Oh, no. No. An 18 and a 16. All right. So, unfortunately, our crew has gotten lost within the bowels of this Borg Sphere, and couldn't even begin to guess, where where they would go to shut down this transporter. They were just going in blind, and all around them, though, like the previously sort of darkened interior of the ship begins to light up a bit. Like the sort of the main lights begin to flick back on. The corridors become a bit more well lit, and all these like weird little glass cells holding these sleeping drones, like all the drones' eyes just like flick open simultaneously, and all their heads begin to turn and look, and the crew's like standing at a 4-way junction, and Kerensky gets on the comm and she says, Captain, get us out of here, so let's see if her communications are going to be jammed or not, because the sphere is coming back online. Let's see. I'm gonna give it a good chance of that happening because, again, the Borg is not familiar with Federation technology here. So we'll say it's probable that her communique goes through, and it is. All right. So let's give our Lieutenant Commander Miles O'Keefe an opportunity here to hone in on our crew and beam them off the ship. As tempted as I am to get into a firefight, again, I'm trying to respect canon because, as it's established in the first Borg episode of Next Generation, the Borg drones clearly were not familiar with Federation phasers. Thank you. All right, so let's do this. It is, again, okay, a 14 or less. Difficulty 1. Oh, yeah. That gets them off. Okay, so 2 successes, in fact. So we generate another momentum, and we get the hell off of that ship. So that scene in and of itself would be a success. Definitely a success. We didn't expose the Borg to our phaser technology so that they could learn how to thwart it. And so all right, we've got 2 scenes left to go in this mission. And we've got some tough choices ahead of us here. So yeah, we'll see what happens as our away team rematerializes back in the transporter bay. Alright, so we're heading into the penultimate scene of Act 3, and therefore of the mission itself. So interestingly enough, I'm trying to think, last week's was about 75 minutes, about an hour 15. This one would probably be about the same. So I think, it feels like if I don't have to pause and do hours of background research, I can probably get through a mission in a typical length episode for the EOR, about 2.5 hours. Which is a long time to be talking to myself. So I don't know what folks would prefer. Would you prefer a smaller little bite-size episodes, or do you want just like one long narrative? Because what I can certainly do, like one of the advantages of a solo game, is I don't have to do it all in one go because I'm not gathering people together virtually or in person to play a game. So I can, I could myself do like 2 hour and 15-minute sessions over the course of the week, or even like 3 shorter sessions, even 3 I don't know, what would that be, 45-minute-ish, 50-minute-ish sessions, and you won't even know the difference. Yeah, you probably will, because I would be recording at different times of the day, and my voice would probably sound different and so forth, but who cares? Anyway, curious what people think. Do you like the shorter sessions? Do you want a chunkier, narrative through line? Yeah, let me know. Hit me up. All right. But, we've got the end of this mission in sight. It's looking promising. Having said that, I've probably just jinxed the entire crew of the Kyushu, but, no, it is looking promising here that, we're going to be able to get out of this one unassimilated. I just realized I could have maybe challenged my resistance is never futile value in that last, well, not the last scene, but the last scene. Maybe it's not too late. So I certainly could have challenged it when we were trying to find the transporter beam. But as it says here, allow values to cause trouble. Values might hinder you at a vital moment when what must be done conflicts with what you believe. This might seem like something to avoid. Who wants a character who will not do as they are told at a pivotal moment? But this troublesome function is also part of a great story. Challenging your values provides an instantaneous bonus in the game, added momentum, or the removal of threat. This naturally emulates a key part of Star Trek storytelling, having to make meaningful choices, deal with what our beliefs really mean in practice, etc., etc. So... And then, yeah, you can employ a value and a power in a positive way, which is kind of how I've used them in the past. Commander, you always told me that no crew should be left behind and good leaders get their hands dirty and so forth. And you can also have values conflict at times. That's interesting. I'm not sure how that would actually work in play. Finding a situation where you are torn between two of your beliefs and must choose which one means more to you. That will make for added drama in play. Do I have any? Well, we've got resistance is never futile versus crew comes first. I guess those are fairly... Because what I'm kind of thinking to myself here is that, we were on board this vessel. The drones are, waking up. Wyn's got a BFG in her hands. A BFP. A big freaking phaser. And, it's like, when's the next time I'm going to be inside one of these things? These guys are, we don't know anything about them, but they're obviously hostile. They just, literally, raped the land of this planet, caused untold devastation down on planet side to the poor, unassuming, inhabitants of this, far-flung world who are just living their lives up until this moment. And she's been told, they've all been told, resistance is futile. Resist this, motherfuckers. Pew, pew. Maybe it's, maybe we're looking at something like that. Or we could go for our third retcon of the day and dial it all the way back to, looking for that transporter beam. I'm a little uncomfortable with going that far back, though. I forgot to challenge my values then. I could have used that to generate momentum and then either done a reroll or, added a hit, although I don't think I managed another hit, did I? So I could have done a reroll. I think there was one roll in particular where I got one success, and the momentum allows you to reroll one of your dice. So, I could have re-rolled that second die. I could have challenged the value, generated the momentum, spent it immediately, re-rolled that failed die, try to get, a second success. But I didn't. And we kind of technically ended the last scene, but in that case, I wouldn't necessarily... Oh no. Yes. Okay, I just thought of something. So, our penultimate scene, we don't have to go back at all. We can just keep going here, because in our penultimate scene, the transporter, and we see 5 crew members materialize on the deck. Where's the 6th? Where is Junior Lieutenant Wyn Cedino? She's back. She's still on the Borg Sphere. She turned off the homing beacon in her little communicator there. She is voluntarily disobeyed. Well, she didn't even really disobey orders, right? She wasn't ordered to transport back to the ship. That's just standard protocol. So she's violated protocol because she is fuming mad. She is fuming mad, and that nicely crew comes first, right? She's just forming the rear guard here. She's not endangering anybody else's life. She's not endangering the crew. And in fact, she can see that the ship's coming back online. This is your heroic sacrifice kind of moment. So, so the scene begins as these drones are beginning to step out of their little bays, and, and her communicator crackles to life, and Kerensky's on the other end, and she's like, Cedino, what the hell are you doing? You turned off your transponder beacon. And Wyn is sort of backing up and, readying her phaser, and she says, I know, Commander. I can't stand to see these bastards get away with it. And I just figure if I wreak some havoc over here, the rest of you will be able to get away. And then Captain Galvin gets on, and he's like, Cedino, God damn it, don't be a hero. Get back over here now. That's an order. All right, so now Wyn has been ordered to turn on her transporter tracking homing transponder doohickey and allow herself to be transported back onto the ship. So, right. Now, we already had a point of momentum from that last scene, so I'll go ahead and spend that one right away so that I can generate another point of momentum in challenging my value. So let's, before I roll any probability matrices or anything like that, although I guess it's my character, I can frickin' decide. I don't have to roll the probability matrix for once in my life. But before we do any of that, let's just generate an advantage. And since I have no idea, what that might be, let's just go with random momentum spends. Okay. How about we roll on refuge is interesting. No, that's kind of friendly alien encounter. Absolutely not. New technology. Not so much. Advanced warning. Let's see. Advanced warning. Okay. That's fine. We'll go with we'll rather than roll on a table, we'll just go with the general theme there of advanced warning. So I'm going to say that Lieutenant Commander Timir, our Vulcan Chief Science Officer, now chimes in and says, Junior Lieutenant Cedino, I have been running analyses of this alien craft, and there is a very high probability that they operate on a hive mind structure and will be able to adapt their defenses to your attacks, possibly with alarming speed. And so in that case, I'm going to say that will influence my decision to obey orders. Yeah. I'm weighing whether I want to get some shots off first. Yeah, come on. We challenged our value. Resistance is never futile. We're just gonna send a rocket up their ass here before we head on out. So that is back to the combat. And here I have hand phasers as a focus, so if I can actually generate a focus advantage, that would be great. I am definitely rolling with daring this time, and security, so that's a 13 or less. Difficulty 1, here we go. Alright, so I got 1 success. I will spend my momentum die and make that 2 damage. Okay. And next. That's 2 successes, so that generates another momentum point and 1 point of damage. So yeah, so I squeeze off a couple blasts from the old phaser, takes out, let's say, 2 drones, and since the sphere is not connected to the collective, say that 5 times fast, we'll just assume that data on Federation phasers never got logged, therefore preserving the canon, the sacred canon. All right, so and so at that point, Wyn turns her locator back on, and almost immediately, all right, well, that was fun. That was good. That was a good time. So yeah, we'll say that Galvin has come down onto the transporter deck, from the bridge, seething mad. Wyn appears, and he says, "I'll deal with you later. I need you at the helm right now." And so everyone goes hustling back. Kerensky was already, on the bridge, acting in the command role because Galvin wanted to go down and personally, grab Wyn by the ear, so to speak. And so Kyushu is already, turning away from the Borg Sphere, which is now beginning to turn its attentions onto Kyushu. So I think this is going to be, even though this is our last scene, it's going to be a bit of an extended one. This isn't just going to come down to one task. So it is understood that, our best odds for getting home are to go back the way we came. I'll admit I was kind of hoping we'd end up doing some chase scene through this giant radioactive cloud surrounding a red giant in a nearby star system, but that I don't think that's really makes a lot of sense, right? Because we know where the corridor's exit was, so we just need to make our way back to that. So let's start with there's going to be a lot of rolls here, so let's start with a navigation roll to try and pinpoint if we can find our way back to this corridor exit here. So we've got the high resolution sensors helping us out there, and other than that, we've got sensor plus science, I think it was, that we decided on. Okay, hey, nice. I mean, I already have a point of momentum, so that normally would have generated another point, but you can only have 1 point at a time. But yeah, so when pinpoints the energy signature on the of this wormhole, as they would probably think of it, and we are impulsing away from the Borg Sphere. Now, the Borg Sphere is going to attempt to drain Kyushu's shields. So, and it's going to, sort of take off after it. Okay, so this is, so basically the sphere is going to attempt to drain the shields and then pull Kyushu back with a tractor beam. But it's also just going to chase after Kyushu. Because, as I indicated earlier, the Borg, they sort of toy with any new civilization that they encounter. They sort of try to provoke them into shooting at them. They try to, chase them to see how fast their craft can go. Just to get the measure of them, basically. And and so they're sort of simultaneously attempting to catch Kyushu and immobilize it so that they can send some drones over and start, investigating the interior of the ship, but also kind of get a measure of the ship itself, right? Meanwhile, Kyushu's just trying to get away. So we're going to run this as Starship Combat, which we have not done before, and this is not going to be traditional combat with the photon torpedoes and what have you. Now, this is a situation in which I could really use the stats for Borg Sphere, because the number of hits that a ship has are reflected in its scale. So Kyushu's scale number is a 4, for example. And I want to say, if memory serves, without stopping to look, that the Borg cube was an 11. And that the Borg probe was a 4. So, again, we'll sort of err more on the side of the cube than on the probe. So, let's give the sphere 8. Let's give the sphere a scale of 8, just so that it's double the number as Kyushu. So in other words, Kyushu has to inflict 8 hits in order to get away from the sphere, whereas the sphere only has to inflict 4 hits before draining Kyushu's shields and locking it in a tractor beam. And depending on how that plays out, well, I guess we'll just keep going with the scene. I was like, are two-parters a thing? I guess they could be. The cliffhanger ending. But we're only on the second mission here, so a little early for cliffhanger two-parters, right? All right, so here we go. Now we have a momentum die going in, which is great. So we'll just hold on to that for the moment. Kyushu's got improved impulse drive, so that's also great, as we're going to try our best to get the fuck out of here. So we're rolling engines plus con, so that's a 13 or less. And if I roll 3 or less, that would kick in the focus advantage from the improved impulse drives. But as it is, I rolled 1 success. So that's a hit against the Borg, so to speak, a quote-unquote hit. All right, I'm going to hold on to that advantage, or that momentum, rather. All right, hey, there we go. So that is 2 successes. Maybe I should have just spent that momentum then. Still learning optimal implementations here. So I'll go ahead and spend the momentum now, I guess. We'll do 2 hits against the sphere. All right. It's going well so far. Yep, just jinxed it. Absolutely. Great. Wonderful. So that's 1 hit against Kyushu. Okay. All right. Okay, there we go. I got my momentum back. And, I generated a focus advantage. Sweet. Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to immediately spend that momentum to do 2 hits on the sphere. All right. So, just we're picturing here Wyn is taking Kyushu to its limits. We're pushing it as hard as it can with its improved impulse drive. We're just trying to get out of that gravity well of the planet so that we can go to warp speed and just go straight down the gob of this transwarp corridor. And meanwhile, we've got the sphere up on the view screen, looking back behind us as it's just kind of menacingly coming up behind us, getting bigger and bigger, our chief engineer, Thirella, is, down in engineering and, saying they're still draining the shields, Captain. Shield capacity down to 20% now. And, Galvin's like, divert all non-essential power to shields. We need to keep those shields up. We don't know what they have in store for us, what they're planning to do to us, but once those shields go down, we are sitting ducks. And, so, let's see. Right, we're going to look up what our focus does for us. Okay, so let's see here. Back to, I believe, that's our page there. Okay. They immediately create an advantage or roll on the advantage table. Page 268. Immediately create an advantage or roll on the advantage table. Okay. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, I am hoping that we can do like proper starship combat at some point, because there's actually like, you know, when you take hits, then you go to the starship hits flowchart and you see if like critical damage resulted, you know. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Right. So let's see here. All right. Oh, divert power to the shields. No, we can just assume that's going on behind the scenes for sure. Yep. Okay. There's a lot of different ways to approach the system. So I know I kind of grouse a little bit about some of the elements with it, but it is a lot of fun. And I have to say, it's definitely very streamlined compared to like what I've noticed in dipping into these Star Trek adventure books. Like, that system definitely seems a lot crunchier. Not that that's a bad thing, but yeah. All right, let's see here. So there's a lot of possible there's a lot of possible outcomes here on this table. I'm just looking at whether I want to roll on it or not. I like this one here. Power surge. An unexpected surge in energy boosts systems to operate above their threshold or clears up an environmental anomaly. Okay, so yeah, let's say that Thorella is, you know, diverting that energy, you know, and that it kind of, you know, in addition to like boosting the shields, well, let's see, it could either erase a hit. I could have it erase a hit, or I could have it inflict an additional hit on the sphere in terms of like putting some distance between us. But I'm going to erase that hit. There we go. Okay, so yeah, you know, Galvin says, you know, divert all non-essential energy sources to shields, and so we remove that one hit, thankfully. Okay, let's keep it going. I have no momentum. I have no focus advantage. And I need to inflict 3 more hits. So it's not going to happen on this roll. Whoa! Interesting. Okay, so I rolled a 1, which is always cool, because it's like the Starfleet Delta. So that's a success, but I also rolled a threat. So I will use that. Should we make the next task difficulty 2, folks? Let's do that. Or a complication. Oh, Lord. Now that might be fun. Let's see here. If I don't see any complications, we'll go with difficulty 2 for the next roll. So let's see here. Okay. Complications. Total catastrophe. Oh man. Random failure, horrific discovery, unexpected attack. Okay, this sounds like fun. So I'm going to roll. If I don't like the result, I won't re-roll. We'll just go with the difficulty 2. But sometimes, you know, the dice can show the way. Mesmerized crew. A strange phenomenon or alien creature has entranced the crew and at least distracts them from their duties, or at most renders them completely fascinated and unable to function. Well, I think everyone's adrenaline is pumping at this point. I can't really think of like anything, I mean, other than the Borg like teleporting aboard and, you know, kidnapping folks like we had in our first mission. But A, we've already done that plot beat, and B, you know, I don't know. It doesn't really ring right to me. Not with the Borg. Alright, so we'll just do difficulty 2 on the next roll. Here we go. Got it anyway. Boom. Alright, so with that is 1 damage, and we'll use that momentum generated since that was my ruling. Even on difficulty 2, you still generate momentum. Spend that right away and do that last bit. Okay, so we hit that wormhole, and with that we pop back in. I honestly do not remember what I rolled last time in terms of being able to safely traverse the wormhole. However, I'm just going to give Wyn the last roll here of the night, and that would be for let's see, control plus con, I think. Trying to hold the damn thing together as we go. All right. Oh, a fail. Ooh, see, there we go. That's interesting. I love that. So I think with that, yeah, let's have the episode end with Kyushu still sort of hurtling through this transwarp corridor towards a destination unknown. All right, so I know normally I generate the next mission at the end of, at the conclusion of a mission, but I don't know. I kind of feel like, well, let's go and look at the different missions here, and kind of see what's to be seen. I might not roll anything randomly this time, but rather just see if there's any kind of like, I don't know. I know I was like yearning for a frickin' shore leave, but I don't think that's gonna happen. All right, let's see here. So, okay, so we've got, these are the general categories. We've got aid and relief, conspiracy, sounds like fun, deep space exploration, kind of seems like maybe that, we're going to continue with this, and just kind of see where that goes. I don't know. We've got defense, and that can both be sort of like, it can be like argue the benefits of the Prime Directive. That's your mission. All the way to like neutral zone violation, retrieve lost weapons, ship's tactical system taken over by a hostile. We've got diplomacy. We've got escort and evacuation, espionage, first contact. That might be fun. Medical, near space exploration, patrol, planetary exploration, political, research and development, show the flag. Sometimes the Federation needs to remind a colony or outlying member world about why they are members of the Federation. Nice. Spiritual. Oh, I think we just found it. Starfleet JAG. Well, that'll come when we get back to Federation space and Wyn gets brought up on charges. And tactical. Okay, let's go with spiritual. We are lost in the transwarp reality. Anything could happen. Let's roll it. We've got spiritual here. Spiritual. And a 7. Entire population has shared vision. Not crazy enough. Crew member has prophetic vision. Better. That is better. I'm seeing some other ones here though. Let me just skim over this. Like ancient deity appears. Okay. Let's see here. That's a good one. So we'll go with ancient deity, prophetic vision. I'll narrow it down like I did with that during character creation, that one table. Okay. Well, let's keep the shared vision too. So we've got ancient deity, prophetic vision, shared vision, life after death experience. I like that. Okay. Any others? There's a lot of like sort of sectarian possibilities on here. Religious sect forbids alien visitors. New religion begins to form. Science conflicts with long-held belief. Spiritual figure assassinated. Tradition unwittingly defiled by crew. Ouch. All right. So I've got it down to 4. That's perfectly reasonable. So you can even do that on a D20. So on a 1 to 5, an ancient deity appears. On a 6 to 10, crew member, Wyn, has a prophetic vision. 11 to 15, the entire crew has a shared vision. And on a 16 to 20, we get a life after death experience. Good old white background and all that. All right. Hey, wow, look at that. We ended up with the first one I rolled after all. So the entire crew has a shared vision. All right. So we're getting into some 2001 Space Odyssey territory here. Has shared vision. Okay. All right, now we get to the most controversial part, for me at least, of the Captain's Log system, which is the incident and theme, as I ranted about last week. All right, here is the incident. A 20. Roll twice and combine. Oh, Lord almighty. All right. A 12 and a 17. Research, transform. Okay. Transform, research. Oh, man. I can already tell it's going to be a headache. All right. Theme. 19. An unknown life form. Actually, it kind of worked. Unknown life form. Research and transform unknown life form. Oh, boy. Yes. All right. Okay, so I'm going to remind myself of what I need to do here to generate a mission. Okay, roll on the specific type matrix, roll an incident and theme. Combine to form an inciting incident. Oh, yeah. Roll a d20 to generate starting advantage or complication. That's right. Okay, it's an odd, so there's complication, because why not? Things aren't cookie enough as it is. 15... Oh, overworked crew. We've already had that one, although that would actually make a lot of sense. But I'll keep that one unless this roll comes up something more interesting. Unexpected attack. As the crew works to resolve the crisis at hand, an outside force attacks. I mean, it's possible that the Borg Sphere followed them and is now attacking them. So, yeah, sure. Complication. Unexpected attack. Okay. I feel like this whole mission's going to take place in transwarp space, which is just pretty cool, honestly. Damn you, Star Trek! Keep pulling me back in. Alright. Had even more excitement to your inciting incident by rolling on the encounters matrix. Alright. Yes. I don't know if we really need more excitement, but let's just see what happens if I roll on that. Type of encounter. What is that? Deep space. It's fitting. Okay. A 1. A city ship is seen on a direct path toward Earth. Wait a minute. Am I just creating V'ger? Is that... Is this... Am I creating Star Trek the Motion Picture? Okay. Interesting. Okay. Oh yeah, because we had deep space last time, because that was the transwarp conduit pulls in your vessel. Funny. Let's see if there's anything that like kind of fits a little bit more. I mean, encounter with new species, obviously. We just rolled that. Scar range. Okay. Wormhole that crosses light years in an instant. Isn't that a transwarp corridor? Wreckage from a Borg craft is discovered on a nearby moon. Yeah. All right, yeah. We'll go with the V'ger route, I guess. City ship. Direct path toward Earth. So it could be a little bit, actually, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of seeing a potential here. Entire crew has a shared vision, so presumably that's the city ship. Research and transform an unknown life form fits in with that very nicely. The complication of the unexpected attack, that's kind of how the mission's going to start out, is just dealing with this Borg Sphere who will not get off our jock. But then once we make it out of the corridor, so I don't think the whole episode's going to be in the corridor. Once we make it out of the corridor, we will presumably then be on like kind of a race against time to get back to Earth, because we've had this like shared vision of this like city ship basically. And yeah, so we'll just kind of see where that goes. But this is actually, I think this is the first time I actually have a fairly strong vision of what this mission's going to look like ahead of time. So yeah, there we go. Ended off on a real exciting note there, with Kyushu kind of plunging through this transwarp corridor. The destination's unknown. We're going to pick up sort of narratively immediately after this. So it was a little bit of it wasn't exactly a two-parter, but it's, sequentially they're going to happen one right after the other. I do really like the idea of doing a fourth mission with Wyn being brought up on charges for insubordination. It'd be pretty hilarious. We'll just see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, in the meantime, we'll see what lies in store for Kyushu next time on Captain's Log.